to Miracle Pictures, where they make a picture a week, and if it's a good picture, it's a miracle. Action! They audition in bed, dodge flying lead, do whatever it takes to get ahead. No! I want action!
Thanks for staying up later, and you might well call this Later from Hell. That might be the way Roger Corman would entitle the first of his two appearances here. If you don't know Roger Corman, and many of you do know his work, but if you don't, would you accept with a smile the definition, the king of the B-movies, the prince of schlock? I've seen both of those things written about you.
No, I don't accept it in any possible way. I will state I have never done a B picture in my life.
They've all been at the top of the bill?
Right, exactly that. Few people recognize the origin of the word B picture. It came from the 1930s when, to lure people into theaters during the Depression, the studios offered two pictures for the price of one. And they made, in their normal production schedule, what they called an A list of pictures and a B list of pictures. And the B list was always the supporting feature. When I started making films in the 1950s, that practice had ended. There were no B pictures anymore.
So now B picture is merely used to indicate a film that's made on a low budget, a film without lofty artistic value in the view of the critics. And here are some of the titles of actual Roger Corman movies. And how many movies you made? 250, 300 movies?
Somewhere around 250.
Okay, here we go. Attack of the Crab Monsters, Teenage Caveman, which Robert Vaughn was in, Women in Cages, Creature from the Haunted Sea, Bloody Mama, The Crybaby Killer, The Day the World Ended, The Last Woman on Earth, The Monster from the Ocean Floor, The Wasp Woman, Night Call Nurses, which somehow I didn't see, but I'm getting the tape, War of the Satellites, Little Shop of Horrors, a classic, A Bucket of Blood, The Wild Angels, X, The Man with the X-Ray Eyes. Was that a guy who bought one of those specs that you could buy, like at the back of the comic books, X-ray specs?
No, that was Ray Milland as a researcher on optics.
Oh, it was Ray Milland?
Yes.
Eat My Dust was another one. And folks, if you just take a look at these few clips, you'll get the idea better than us talking about it.
I got more speeding tickets than anybody else in the county.
I want to ride in that car.
They steal a super stocker and tell the world to eat my dust. Darlene is in the fast cars. Hoover is in the Darlene.
You'll meet her at night in a dark place. She's beautiful, and she's waiting for you, waiting to love you to death. The Angels, modern-day outlaws, filled with a lust for vile ravage. They slake their depraved appetites on the bodies of the innocent, defiling whatever they touch. Angels die hard. New World Pictures, the company that brought you Student Nurses, now proudly presents Private Duty Nurses, the sensational new motion picture that goes behind the scenes and between the sheets with the girls in white.
Isn't it essential for the kind of movies you've made, especially in the 50s and 60s, to put together a really good trailer and have an announcer who can really sell this stuff? It came from the Black Lagoon with 14 heads and frightening tentacles. I mean, you really have to build this stuff up.
Yes. The trailer and today the TV spot is vitally important. And some of our best people have worked on that. For instance, John Davison, the producer of RoboCop, and Joe Dante, the director of Gremlins and a number of other films, were the heads of our trailer and TV departments at different times, and they did exactly that. They would very often cut trailers. Matter of fact, I shouldn't say very often. Their job was to cut a trailer that was better than the film.
You mentioned Ray Milland, and that's something which is a significant strain that goes through your work. A lot of big names have appeared in Roger Corman films.
Yes, particularly big names at the beginning of their career. A number of well-known actors now have started with me. You see, there's Jack Nicholson, Sylvester Stallone, Charlie Bronson, Bobby De Niro, a number of others.
At the 1975, I think it was, Academy Awards, even though no Roger Corman films were nominated, it was sort of like a reunion of people who had either begun with Roger Corman or intersected with you very early in their careers. Robert Towne, the screenplay for for Chinatown. Coppola, whom you had worked with, Godfather 2, he for direction and It for Best Picture. De Niro, Best Supporting Actor that year in Godfather 2, picked up an Oscar. Ellen Burstyn,
right.
Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. She had worked in Roger Corman films. And I take it from the things that I've read and the few interviews where I've heard them refer to you, that they have a high regard for you.
Well, it was fun at that time. We were all a little bit younger then. We were all working together and starting out. And it was a great camaraderie. And what you say about the Academy Awards that year was true. Every major award was won by somebody who had started with me, except Best Leading Man, and Jack Nicholson missed. And I said to Jack afterwards, Jack, you're the only one who didn't do it. He said, they don't know what they're doing. I'll get them next year. And indeed, he won the award the next year.
He didn't get it for Chinatown and did get it for
I
One
think
Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Right.
How would you define a Roger Corman film?
I'm not certain. Nobody's actually asked me that way. I would say a Roger Corman film is generally a low-budget film that attempts to stay true to its genre, but has something extra to it.
In what way? What are the extras?
The extra might be primarily a thought, because we're limited by money. So I can't say that it's going to be bigger or more impressive looking. I would say there'll be some concept, some original idea within it, so that you could take a film such as The Wild Angels, which was kind of the granddaddy of all the Hell's Angels film. On the surface, it was what the ad said, a wild action film about the Hell's Angels. Somewhere beneath that surface, and this was recognized, the film went to a couple of film festivals. It was the opening night film at the Venice Film Festival. There was a comment about our society and the position of the less talented, the underclass, as it were, within the society. I don't want to get too pretentious about that, because the films were made to be entertainments and have succeeded as such. But I do think there is something in addition to the entertainment within them.
You've got a book coming out, How I Made 100 Movies in Hollywood and Never Lost a Dime. So you're legendary for turning a profit on the low-budget films, and stories of your efficiency abound. Give me a couple of your favorite examples of ways in which you were able to cut some corners, you didn't lose any quality, and got it done on a shoestring.
Well, I can remember once when we were shooting a night sequence on a natural location, and I wanted to get a bigger shot than I had originally planned, and because it was low budget, we didn't have very many lights. So I came up with the idea of having the Grips and a couple of other people take some cars and park the cars at intervals down the street and turn on the car headlights in order to light the background of the shot. And we had an Academy Award-winning cameraman and the gaffer who'd been working with them on Academy Award-winning films. And I remember the gaffer was saying, all right, now this man who was a very sensitive gaffer who had worked at MGM on very beautiful films, and he was saying, all right, now put the brights on that car, the dimmers on the car over there. And he really modulated the lights so they looked very good.
Wasn't there another time when you scaled down the size of an army?
Yes, we had a little bit of a problem shooting Atlas in Greece, and two things happened there. I needed the troops marching behind to Atlas and Praximides, the two main characters who were talking. So I had the camera here, the two actors there, and the army was supposed to be hundreds of people, and I only had about, I think, 20 extras. So I had the extras march around the camera and around them, so they just kept going and going and going, so the camera saw nothing but soldiers marching in the background.
How much do you like your own films as personal entertainment 8 years, 10 years later? If you're in a hotel, it's late at night, you flip on the tube, any one of them might pop up unexpectedly. You get a kick out of them?
Sometimes I do. I like most of the films. Sometimes I say, well, this one could have been better, but in general, I'm pleased with how they turned out.
Isn't it essential to find young women who are very good screamers? I mean, if you were around in the days of Fay Wray, you could have used Fay Wray on a regular basis.
Without question. She would have been my ideal leading lady.
You know who else was good? Not Noel Neill, but what was it? Phyllis Coates played Lois Lane on Superman before Noel Neill. Boy, could this babe scream.
Right.
You know, a gangster grabbed her and she would let out a blood-curdling cry. Do your actors and actresses view a Corman film as a tongue-in-cheek experience? Are they frolicking around the set, getting a big kick out of it?
Only in the ones which are done as comedies. If it's not a comedy, even though it is a horror film or a science fiction film, we take it very seriously. Even on a low-budget film, we try to get an honest and truthful performance from the actor. On the comedies, of course, anything goes. I remember Ron Howard on Eat My Dust, which was a wild car chase comedy. Yeah. And on a couple of the films I directed, particularly I remember Little Shop of Horrors, and on one of the Edgar Allan Poe films, where I had Vincent Price and Peter Lorre and Boris Karloff, and everybody was kind of throwing gags back and forth, improvising, and people were just having a good time on that.
You went through an Edgar Allan Poe period, didn't you? You did the Fall of the House of Usher, and you did The Raven.
Yes, I did The Pit and the Pendulum, Mask of the Red Death, The Tomb of Ligeia, Tales of Terror, which was a trilogy of 3 of his short stories, although almost all of them had started as short stories. Did them true to what you perceived as Poe's intent, or with vast creative license? No, we stayed very true to Poe's intent on everything except The Raven, which became a comedy. It became a comedy because Dick Matheson, the writer, and I had worked together on so many of them, we felt that we were starting to repeat ourselves. And we said, let's go for jokes on one of them. For someone with your fascination for monster movies, horror movies, it must have been a tremendous thrill to actually make a picture with Peter Lorre and Boris Karloff. Yes, I had always admired their work, and I'd been working with Vincent Price in a number of films, and we decided to make a trilogy, as it were, with Vincent, with Peter, with Boris, and in one segment with Basil Rathbone. And I remember they all had differing acting styles. For instance, in The Raven, we had Vincent, Peter, and Boris. Boris Karloff was trained as an actor in England and was very much of a classical actor who knew the lines, understood his performance, and was prepared to come in and deliver exactly what the script said. Peter Lorre had a vague idea as to what the script was, but was prepared to come in. Matter of fact, he could only come in, improvise, make up his lines, do outrageous things on the set, and just kind of flow. Vincent had been trained in a classical way, but also could improvise, so he could work a little bit with Peter. But with Peter and Boris, it was very difficult, because Peter would just say something that had no connection with the script, and Boris would stand there and look at him, and I'd have to say, cut. All right, now, fellas, let's work something out here.
I know you. You're afraid to face me when I'm sober, huh?
Are you sober?
Sober enough to make a fool of you, you cheap faker, you.
Father, Dr. Bedlow, that I did not hear. We will proceed with our present conversation.
Yes, you are afraid, you miserable coward.
Father, in the name of...
Shut your mouth! Yes, afraid. Afraid of an honest duel in magic. You pitiful old goat.
Enough, sir.
You shriveled up old...
Enough, sir.
It appears that you treat all this stuff with good humor, but is there ever an impulse for you to stand up and in some way publicly prove that you're a guy who can do something other than this? I did that one time, around the year 1960 or so. I did a picture called The Intruder. At that time, I had directed, I've forgotten, 17, 18, 19 films, and I'd never had a failure. And any script I would develop would be immediately bought by any of the low-budget motion picture companies in Hollywood. And I wanted to do something about racial integration in the South, which was something I was very much involved with. And I developed a script
called The Intruder, and to my surprise, everybody turned me down. So I backed the picture with my own money, got a new young actor from New York named Bill Shatner to play the lead. We went to the South, shot the picture on the actual locations in 3 weeks, and the film got great reviews, won a couple of film festivals. One of the New York papers, I still remember the review. It started off, "This motion picture is a major credit to the entire American film industry. The first picture I ever made that lost money." I think I learned something from that and evolved what has been my formula ever since, that on the surface the picture should be an entertainment, and if there is some message, some theme that's important to me, that will be beneath the surface, and if somebody picks it up, fine, but on the surface the films are entertainments.
Did you have any special problems in the course of making The Intruder?
We had a number of problems making The Intruder. We were shooting on natural locations in a small town in the South, and it turned out that most of the people in the town believed in segregation. And our picture, of course, was pro-integration, so we had developed a second script, which we showed to the townspeople, which made the picture seem a little bit more neutral. And we were constantly devising ways to shoot with our pages, but make it look like we were shooting with the pages we'd shown the mayor, and so forth.
Now let me ask you, do you people want niggers taking over? No! And are you willing to fight this thing down to the last ditch and keep fighting until it's over? Then I'm willing to fight with you. Why, Mr. Kramer? Why? Because I'm an American, sir, and I love my country. And I'm willing to give my life, if that be necessary, to see that my country stays free, white, and American!
Did you hear from any of the people around the locations where you shot after the movie was released?
No, but both Bill Shatner and I got some threatening letters during the shooting, and the final sequence we shot was a Ku Klux Klan parade through the black part of town. I switched the shooting schedule and shot that the last night, and we checked out of our motel and got that shot, and then everybody drove in the middle of the night up to St. Louis and got out.
Before he became a stand-up sensation in the 60s, you used Don Rickles.
Yes, and now that was very interesting, because Don, who is the personification of confidence and of strength, was actually nervous on the set. I was amazed to see how nervous he was the first couple of days, and my main job as a director really was to encourage him, to tell Don, everything's okay, you're doing a fine job, nothing to be nervous about.
Had he discovered his act, that insult kind of humor, at that point?
Yes. Don was moderately well known at that time. He performed a few times in Vegas and in a couple of other places. He wasn't the star that he went on to be, but he was on the road.
He was in The Man with the X-Ray Eyes with Ray Milland, is that right?
Yes, he played a circus barker who picks up Ray and uses him as part of his act.
Hey, you boys over there. You two fellas, step right over here. You're embarrassing the girls. Come on over here and see a show. We're going to present to you one of the finest shows on earth. Big deal. Hey, buddy, how would you like it if I step on your hands, huh? Nobody likes a wise guy. This man, ladies and gentlemen, he can read your mind. Tell you what you're thinking.
Can you tell me where my wife is?
Yeah, buddy, on a broom flying around the pier. I need guys like you. Come on, you people. He's ready to begin. The man they call Mentallo. The man with the miraculous mind. Step right up, folks.
The Man with the X-Ray Eyes really took some interesting twists and turns. I mean, this thing got surreal after a while. First the guy has the X-ray eyes, and you think what anybody would think. Well, he could see criminals in the act, or if he was kind of a lecherous guy, he could peer into someone's dressing room. But in the end, he was seeing God.
Yes, what it was progressive. He could see, for instance, he could see through buildings, and this became a very difficult thing of special effects, that he saw through the facade of the building to the steel, and then saw beyond the steel to the inside. And the only way I was able to get that is I photographed a building under construction over a period of months, and then used the film cutting backwards. So we had the exterior of the building and then the interior. And what he was able to see was to see deeper and deeper and deeper until the end. I left it vague as to whether he was seeing God or whether he was simply seeing to the center of the universe. And I used a quote, not a quote, but saying from the Bible, "If thine eye offends thee, pluck it out," which is what he did in the last moment of the film.
Are you embarrassed by any of the films you've done?
No, not in any way. Every film I ever made, I did my best. And whatever happened, happened. Generally, the films have been well received. I think it was Penelope Houston, who was the editor of Sight and Sound, which at the time, this was in the late 60s when I was directing most of my films, Sight and Sound was most influential of the intellectual film magazines, wrote, and I think I can remember what she said. She said, "Roger Corman has become, if not the darling of the critics, at least their mascot." I uniformly got good reviews, and the first reviews on my new film, Frankenstein Unbound, have been really very, very good.
Tomorrow, Roger Corman is back with us on Later with tales of Martin Scorsese, Francis Ford Coppola, Robert Towne, Robert De Niro, Jack Nicholson, Charles Bronson, as many as we can fit in. And until then, we'll see you later.
Beginning tomorrow, NBC Nightly News.
Jeff Healey also